What's up guys, welcome back to Destiny Updates. The UK's Xbox 360 Magazine got a chance to play Destiny, likely at E3, and so in their latest issue they've got a feature on Destiny, with a bit of new info and sort of a new perspective, especially on the MMO front. Now on the front cover they made some pretty bold claims. First up, the main title says, "Halo utterly destroyed by Bungie's Destiny." Then there's a bullet list of what's in the article. It says, "Bungie President interrogated, brand new details discovered, and why it's better on Xbox One." Now that last one, why it's better on Xbox One, seems pretty groundless. Really false advertising in my opinion. As far as I could see, there wasn't a single mention of it being better on Xbox. Anyways, let's go over what they said. According to X360, Destiny really is an MMO, despite Bungie's efforts to say it isn't. The article starts off with, "Who knew World of Warcraft was the future of console gaming? We certainly didn't." Even when Bungie revealed Destiny as a shared world shooter, the idea of a console MMO FPS, sorry Bungie, but it is, coming together like this was inconceivable in our minds. Skipping ahead a bit, they continued, "The MMO framework is set to dominate the foreseeable future then. And if there's one thing that's certain, it's that Destiny is leading the way when it comes to combining the action-driven combat console players are used to and the social structuring of the MMO." Now personally, I have no problem with Destiny being an MMO. I think it's a good thing, so long as there's no subscription fee, which was already confirmed multiple times. But I'm not certain that comparing to World of Warcraft is the best idea. I don't believe Destiny will have WoW's kind of player count or questing system. Some things like raids might be similar, and aspects like dynamic connected worlds that you can explore and interact with, plus the heavy social elements, are definitely MMO features, but I still believe Destiny's player counts will be more limited than a conventional MMO. Although we don't actually know yet, perhaps they won't be. Now the one thing I'm really wondering is competitive multiplayer. What kind of player count will competitive matches have? We have no idea, but I'm dying to find out. They went on to compare it to Borderlands in terms of the RPG style stats system, with a little level indication floating above players' heads. Then they brought up a rather important topic, which is, how will Bungie balance the game for players of vastly different levels playing together? X360 said, "It won't be an issue when you're playing by yourself. Bungie's excellent matchmaking system will simply dump you in the proximity of players near enough your level. But when you try and party up with a friend who's a different level to you, then you might start to see a few problems." Now that is a very valid point. What happens if you're a level 10 and you go out on a mission with a friend who's level 50? We know Destiny has private loot streams, so each player would get loot appropriate for their level. Loot's not a problem, but what about the difficulty? You would imagine a level 50 would have some really badass gear that could just mow these guys down, so how do you keep the game fun? Really, I have no idea, but I'm sure Bungie will have it worked out. They've already told us that they're not going to put up barriers in the way of friends playing together, so I don't really think missions will be level locked, but I'm not sure how they'll handle it. Moving along, there's a list of 5 miscellaneous points here. We already know about all of these, so I'm not going to mention them, but one seems like it should be reiterated, which is they think Destiny could very well have microtransactions in some capacity. Now we already knew this was very, very likely, and I've made tons of videos on it, but I figured I should mention it again for all the new subscribers. Next, there's an interview with Bungie President Harold Ryan, and there's quite a few interesting points. First up, X360 asks if he thinks gamers understand just how massive Destiny is. Harold says, "I don't think so. There is a lot to the game." He went on to say how the demo showed player investment, public matchmaking, and co-op events. It also asked the questions, what kind of story were those guys going on? What activities were they choosing as a team? That's just one narrow slice of the experience. Going ahead a bit, he referred to the Fallen as the main enemy, which I sort of assumed, but now we heard it from Bungie's president. I'm guessing the Fallen will be our primary enemy, especially on Earth it seems, at least from the info we've been given so far. Then he says that to really understand the game, get the scale of it and all, you have to play it. Unfortunately for us, it's still in pre-alpha, so we won't be doing that anytime real soon. Now an interesting thing he said was, we did get 7 players to work with the dedicated server on stage, which was unnerving. But there's a lot to Destiny. I think it's going to take a while for people to really understand the full scope of it. The part that caught my eye in there was dedicated server. It may mean nothing since it was just for a pre-alpha stage demo, but it still makes me hope that Destiny will have dedicated servers. In an old mail sack there was something that made me think Destiny wouldn't have dedicated servers, but the more we see of Destiny and the more I think about it, I believe it will have to have them in order to run. It's too much like an MMO not to. Next, X360 asks if he thinks it will be difficult for console players to get used to this kind of PC MMO game style. Harold says that they're very sensitive to the average Halo or COD player, even players of Oblivion in games like that. Now if you somehow don't know, Oblivion is Elder Scrolls 4, which came before Skyrim, so he's basically saying that they're being mindful of the average FPS and open world RPG player. Continuing on, he says that they know those types of players are not very patient and want an action game. And the first thing Destiny is an action game. Then saying that everything on top of it is a rich and deep plus. So that's once again emphasizing that first and foremost, Destiny is an action game. Everything else is a big bonus to add much more to the experience. Anyways, he goes on to say, you're going to be presented with so many opportunities to progress your character, to care about how you look and how you customize yourself, and who you play with and how you play with them. Ultimately, it's a game we're very focused on designing for people who just love to play the current generation of online shooters. So they're definitely catering to the standard console player, drawing them into this MMO style world. In the next question, he is asked about creating the fiction for an entirely new universe. Harold says that the first thing they created was a fictional background. They've been working on the story for years, with 8 or 9 writers. The sci-fi editor for Tor Books Publishing is actually their managing editor, and Joe Staten, who's been writing Bungie fiction for 15 years, is lead writer. So they've got a good team going. Then he said how they put together the concept of story and fiction with the visuals, and that's how they achieved the look they have for Destiny, which is pretty awesome. On to the next question, they mention how hard it is for MMO players to feel like they have any impact on the world, with respawning bosses and such, and asks Bungie how will they be tackling this. Harold says that there will be huge discussions about the activities you can engage in, but for now he tells us that the designers have the ability to make something an activity that you play through, and they control the frequency that you can play through it, whether you play through it once or multiple times, and they control whether you play it with 2 or 3 friends, or whether you play it in a public space, where you might encounter it every time you land on Venus as you go through. Skipping ahead, he says, we won't present you with a situation where you slay the Devil Walker Lord and are glad he's gone, then he just happens to be back the next day. If we set up that kind of activity, you'll actually accomplish it and then move on beyond that task. So it sounds like the developers have a lot of control over how you encounter situations, and it doesn't sound like we'll be doing things like encountering the same big boss twice, which is great. Now the next question asks about next-gen advancements for Destiny. Harold says that it was about increasing the scope of technology, and then said that it would make sense to put more into some fundamental things that would allow them to expand the amount of interactivity that the player has in the game. Then he says that for the artists, they can build and paint to the scale the next-gen consoles can display, and they're loving it. So that's pretty much everything of interest from the article. The author ended it by saying that Destiny is really exciting, and that now that they've seen it, they're more convinced than ever that it will be something special. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video, but here's a question for you guys. That little thing about it being better on the Xbox One made me wonder which consoles you guys plan to buy it for. Personally, I haven't decided yet. I'm more of an Xbox guy at heart, but it'll likely depend on just how much exclusive content the PS4 is getting. But let me know in the comments which console you're leaning towards for Destiny. I'm really curious to know. And please, no flame wars. People are allowed to prefer whichever console they like. You don't have to fight about it. Now that's it for this update. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like. I haven't asked in a while, but I put quite a bit of work into this one and would really appreciate it. It helps a lot to get my videos out there more. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest Destiny news, and I'll see you in the next update.